Cancer has remained as the second leading cause of death for many years. And I don't know about you, but I hate cancer, and I think that cancer is a reality for many people if you don't start using these tips I'm about to show you on how to starve cancer out of your body. Hey Wellness Warrior, I'm Dr. Zyrowski, and I believe cancer could be anyone's reality one day if you are not doing the right things. Even though I exercise and eat right, I still want to make sure that I'm putting that effort in to avoid cancer because statistically, it is the second leading cause of death. So let's go ahead and dive right in to a couple cancer facts. Now, there was a German physiologist by the name of Otto Warburg, and what he basically found is that cancer cells are addicted to sugar. It was his big breakthrough in his career, identifying this fact, and until then we didn't know that. So we figured out at this point that cancer cells are addicted to sugar, and they consume 100 times more glucose than normal cells do. So that is their primary fuel, and they love it and they thrive off of it. Well, it just turns out that the average person consumes about 125 grams of that very substance that those cancer cells thrive off of. What he also went on to find out is that there was a pathway, and they referred to it as glycolytic metabolism, in which these cancer cells operate. So if we want to make sure that we're doing the right things in avoiding cancer in our body, we of course want to make sure that we're avoiding sugar based off this information. Let's go ahead and talk about the number one cause of cancer, okay? Because this is really important. When you look at the statistics, what you essentially find is that the number one cause of cancer is obesity. It's estimated that in America, 35% of people are obese, okay? And you might ask yourself, well, why would obesity lead to cancer? It's not just the fact that you have fat on your body, it's everything else that comes with that package, right? So if we kind of stem out from that problem of obesity, what do we find? We find chronic inflammation. We find metabolic syndrome, as in insulin resistance, the inability to lower the blood sugar and get it into the cell. So we have this high blood sugar problem. We have immune deficiency issues, autoimmune disorders that come from this. We even have mitochondrial disorders. So therefore, obesity comes with a package of a whole lot of other issues that we are facing. So we have to make sure that, well, if we don't want to avoid cancer, well, we've discovered two things, how to starve cancer so far, right? Get the sugar out of our system, and also make sure that we aren't walking around with a whole bunch of excess belly fat. And when you look at some of the statistics around like metabolic syndrome, like insulin resistance, it's estimated that 100 million people in America alone are suffering from insulin resistance. Okay, and the reality is that number is probably much higher. The fact is we just don't know because nobody's being tested, right? If you're not being tested, you can't identify the problem. And the reality is, like I said, is it's far worse because many children are even facing this issue. Now let's talk about how to identify some cancer in the body, because there's something called a PET scan. And this is a new method of identifying cancer, and it's pretty interesting. It stands for positron emission tomography. And what essentially is done here is that they inject something called fluorinated deoxyglucose. And this substance, once injected into the body, will start to basically be broken down through the metabolic functions. And then what will happen is the cancerous area will go in and start consuming this injected liquid that they put in your body. Now what happens from there, they'll run that scan. They'll run the PET scan, and wherever that cancer is, it will light up in the body. So for instance, if you were to get this scan and you had pancreatic cancer, your pancreas would light right up bright in the scan, whereas if it didn't have any cancer there, then it wouldn't at all. And that would happen anywhere in the body. So it's pretty interesting, and it's a new way of detecting cancer in the body that's very, very interesting. Because as we mentioned, these cancer cells love sugar, so when they inject basically this high sugar substance in, well, that area just lights right up because there's so much metabolic activity because it's just consuming all that sugar really rapidly. So from there, is it that easy that we could just avoid sugar and cancer just isn't going to happen to us? The answer, unfortunately, is no, but it's a darn good start. And there's a few other things that we can do because there's some very interesting studies that continue to come out around cancer. And I'm going to share here with you a very specific spice that a new study just came out and that identified that this spice actually targets the stem cells, the root cause of where that cancer and tumor activity is. But let's go ahead and talk about fasting first, okay? Because this is a pretty good option for driving down insulin resistance issues. It's a good option for driving down blood sugar. And if you fast for 24 hours, 48 hours, maybe a 3-day, 5-day fast, whatever it is, where you're just consuming water and electrolytes during that time, then you're even going to get that huge benefit of autophagy, where you actually break down those cancerous cells, rid them from the body, and of course use those broken down parts of those bad cells to make new healthy ones. So fasting is a great option. So if you're not doing fasting, you should at least do 16 and 8 every day. And if you can slip in a few multiple day fasts throughout the year, that's great too. Next is a ketogenic diet, because what happens is these cancer cells don't thrive on ketones. So if you're following the ketogenic diet, you're going sugar free and you get those ketones up in the body. They're very healing, and also it doesn't support that cancerous process. The other thing we can do is we can do high intensity interval training and weight training. Does some really good things at boosting hormones like testosterone or growth hormone. These repair hormones that actually can help us fight off cancers, boost our immune system, lower inflammation, fight off insulin resistance. They do all of these things. It lowers our blood sugar when we go and do intense exercise or when we actually use a lot of muscle activation. So this is good for that. Now there's very specific spice, and there was an Israeli study that has just come out, and what they identified is this spice goes right to the heart of cancer and it attacks those cancerous stem cells, and that spice is going to be turmeric. So if you want to actually go right to the source and use a spice which can support you during this process, turmeric is your answer. So we can lose the sugar, follow a healthy diet, make sure that we're not putting ourselves, our health, in a place of increased risk factors, okay? Many people are in this place, unfortunately. So we want to make sure that we're making these changes and use turmeric, because not only is it good for inflammation, it's shown to help with insulin resistance and pretty much every health issue that exists, but now it's like there's this really cool study that shows it even helps fight off cancer right at the root cause, right at the stem cell. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this one, go ahead and check out this one right over here, because I'm positive you'll love it.